power, and this is a message from me. I wanted to go live today and talk about just something that's been coming up a little bit recently, because it's conscious for me as I repeat myself constantly talking about content repurposing and all the other content stuff that I talk about. I say the same thing a lot, right? Over and over again. And I sometimes feel a bit conscious of that, like, wow, really? Like, I'm still talking about the same stuff? But the thing is that I keep telling myself, and also telling my clients who are saying the same thing, like, we only talk about the same 15 or 20 things in business, now within our business. It's and often in life, I mean, maybe even less. Like, we're always talking about the same topics. And so what we've got to do is really be consistent and talk about those topics. Keep talking about them. And if you feel like you're getting repetitive, first of all, not that many people see your content to begin with. And certainly the same people aren't seeing the same content all the time. You know, they might watch a live and then they might stop. They might, hey new people, hi. They might see something on Instagram, and then, you know, they might not see anything from you again for a bit. And so it really doesn't matter if you're repeating yourself, right? It doesn't matter. All you're doing is refining your messaging and just saying the same thing over and over again. And if you do feel like you're repeating yourself, if you're really like, whoa, this is way too much, what you need to do is switch up how you're delivering your content. So you could say it in different ways, obviously, right? You could say the same words using different words and phrases. You could use a different medium. So you could use video, audio, live video. You could try a live event. You could do a blog. There's lots of different ways. And you can also use different platforms, right? So you start a new platform. You can start using TikTok. That might be a fun thing. You could repurpose your content, like I'm always talking about. So there's lots and lots of ways that you can take your content and say it again in different ways, using a different platform or using a different medium. So if you think about things like what I talk about all the time, right, which is content repurposing, but I also talk about other things. Mostly content related, but things like being kind to yourself, right? Like personal development stuff, thinking good thoughts, manifesting things, using your thoughts to generate, actions, not just sitting on a couch and hoping, but actually thinking your goals and then taking the actions to reach those goals. So this is weird because I can't see comments on here. If you're in here, just say hi. I think it's because my phone is sideways. Anyway, I'm sure there's people saying hi. Hi! So I always talk about these kind of different things, right? But they're kind of along the same lines, but they're the same 10 or 15 things. And probably in another video, I will go over what those things are really clearly, because I want to go through and actually detail. I think Gary Vaynerchuk one time went through and said, here are the 15 things that I always talk about. It's really interesting to watch Gary. He's a good example, because what he does is say the same 15 things, but it's amazing because he gets asked so many questions all the time, right? Like he gets asked just everything about any niche or industry or any social media platform, and he's literally saying the same stuff over and over again. And I find that so incredible, because it's like most people already know what he's going to tell them. You know, a lot of people who are like, oh, how do I stop myself from this is a great example. How do I stop myself from overthinking and then like procrastinating? How do I let myself just do the thing that I want to do and just go for it? And he always says the same thing. He talks about his mum, who never, who always told him how great of a kid he was and how he could do anything and he was so awesome. And he talks about his mum and how he grew up as a refugee. And he says, you can't let people hold you back. You can't let what people think hold you back. You're just letting people people's opinion of you stop you from doing this thing. You don't want to look like an idiot or whatever, right? And it's the same thing. I've seen him tell people hundreds of times, this is why you can't do that thing. They're just asking the same question over and over again. And they may ask it in a different way, I'm scared to leave my job. What should I do? He just says the same stuff all the time. Welcome. Hi. Okay, some comments are showing up. Cool. And so if you think about, Gary's general stuff, it's, being kind and honest is always the right thing to do. Suffocate your bullshit, right? Like, don't let yourself have excuses, and he doesn't let us have excuses. And it talks about, him growing up as an immigrant, about his parents, about his wine shop when he was... these are the same stories that come up. And the thing about it, Gary is such a good example. The thing about it is that when you see these stories so many times, they start to go into your head and you start to really understand or feel like you understand the person. Right? I feel like I understand Gary's stories. I know what he's going to say. I feel like I know him. I really like his content. And so, maybe you don't, he's kind of polarizing sometimes. Maybe you don't love Gary Vee like I do. That's fine. But the point is that you telling your stories to the people who are in your audience, they want to get to know your stories. And if you've only told, I've only told my coming out story, twice or something, but I need to tell it more because people want to understand more about where I came from and how, what's happened to me. I left a cult. I was nomadic for 8 years. There's so much stuff that's happened in my life that I don't really talk about consistently. And I've talked about a couple of things. But even last week when I mentioned growing up in a cult, someone who's a good friend of mine was like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, what? I just think that people know these things about me. And you probably do too. I guarantee you there's stories that you haven't told or you have told and you feel like you've told everyone and everyone must know it about you, but they just don't. And so you got to repeat the same stories and the same, you can frame them differently. You can frame them as here's what made me me, or here's one time that I broke through a barrier that I thought I had, and this is what was on the other side. And here's this time where I went through a really hard period of that things were really difficult for me, and here's how I overcame it. These are the stories that people want to hear from you. And so just repeat it in different ways. Do live videos talking about it, write blogs about it, do recorded videos talking about it. Make a podcast, do a podcast episode talking about it. Talk about it on other people's podcasts. Just repeat the same crap that you're always repeating, but do it in different and new ways, and you will get your information and stories will apply to different people, and they will attract different types of people as you switch it up. So I'm not saying repeat yourself every day the same thing. Oh, I repurpose content. I do that every day actually, but expand out your messages to 10 or 15 different things that you really love talking about. The values that you have, right? If whatever's important to you, it's really important to me that people express themselves, their authentic versions of themselves. They have full self-expression in the world. That's what I want. I want someone to not hide behind any crap or be worried about what people will think about them and express themselves fully in the world. I also do content repurposing, but that's not really related. These are just all the things that kind of make up my brand. And so I'm always talking about 10 or 15 different things, and I think that you should maybe figure out what your 10 or 15 are as well, so that you can talk about all of those in different ways. I've got tons more examples of people to talk about. Marissa Peer is amazing at talking about why people feel like they're not good enough in life. She has this whole thing about when a baby is born, it doesn't think, oh, I've got fat legs, don't look at me, I'm having a bad hair day. It's not embarrassed or ashamed about anything. It's cute and it just wants it wants attention. It's a baby is happy to have attention. It's never upset or worried about how it looks, right? And so as we grow older, this is what Marissa is always talking about, as we grow older, there's some stuff that happens to us where we decide that we're too fat, or we do something silly and decide that we're not good enough, or a bunch of stuff happens and we just make decisions about it, and then we grow up with all this bullshit now that we've gathered to as evidence of this thing that we decided when we were 4 or whatever. And so her whole thing is, getting rid of that stuff and going back to just being enough and being excited to live your life, etc., etc. So she's got and I've heard that thing a million times. I've watched probably 20 of her talks and things, and she always uses that baby story. And so it's in my head, Marissa Peer, when you're a baby, you've got fat legs. It's a whole thing that I remember all the time. And that's what we want to do for you and your audience, is show them that you have a similar thing that sticks in their brain, so that every time that they think that they're not good enough, every time I think I'm not good enough, I go, well, when I was a baby, I had fat legs. And now, all this stuff happened, and now I feel like this. So, okay. And it takes me 5 seconds to get back into like, okay, I'm enough. I've just, have all these weird decisions in my head growing up. Thanks, Marissa Peer. And now I'm talking about her on my live. And ideally, we want you to talk about your stuff so that other people will talk about you on their lives. And that's just how it works. So we have to repeat the content. We have to repeat all the things that are important to us. And hey, Mel, thanks. Yeah, this is really cool. And if you think about someone like Mel Robbins, right? Another person who does amazing work with people, and she helps people get out of their heads when they're indecisive. She has the 5-second rule. I've also watched maybe 20 times Mel Robbins talking about the 5-second rule, and her, I think she's got multiple books out now, but she always helps people to get organized and get out of their own heads and take actions that they really want to take. And again, like Marissa, feel good enough in order to look after their families and run their businesses or whatever it is. And it's the 5-second rule with Mel. I know the story. One day she was depressed. She couldn't get out of bed. She hadn't really been doing anything. She hated what she was up to in life. It was all shit. And then she was lying in bed and she thought, oh my God, if I don't do something right now, like I just can't do this anymore. Well, if I don't do something right now, I'm going to lose it. So she made up the 5-second rule. She said, I'm going to do it in 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then she just got out of bed and brushed her teeth and did the things. And then every time that she has a difficult decision to make or something that she doesn't really want to do, she's procrastinating, the whole thing is, there's 5 seconds. Don't let yourself think about it. Just get it done. And so I know that story, and now I know her framework. And now I'm talking about her on my live. And so that's what we want you to do, is to get your frameworks together, start talking about them all over the place. Can talk about them a lot. Don't just talk about them every 2 weeks. Mention that you might have this thing happened, and then you get off the live or you get off the thing. And like this video that I'm talking on right now is going to be transcribed and turned into multiple videos, and the quotes are going to be grabbed out of it. And then I'm going to post them on my, 5 social media platforms or whatever that I'm using. And all that stuff is going to happen because I always talk about the same things. And this is one of them. Right? So, hopefully that makes sense. If you have any thoughts, opinions, suggestions, please post them under this video, or if you're watching this anywhere else as written content, etc., just let us know. Somehow get in contact if you have any thoughts or opinions or suggestions. I would absolutely love to hear from you. One thing we do, as I've told you many times here at Power Creative Media, is we repurpose content. We help clients to repurpose content. We've got some amazing stuff going on. Next week, I'm actually doing a masterclass inside our Facebook group. You'll find the link underneath of this video, our Facebook group. I'm going to show you how to take a podcast episode and turn it into 1 month's worth of content. Right, so 20 pieces worth of content, 5 days a week for a month. And it's going to be really, really fun. So make sure you jump into our Facebook group if you're not already. And I'll see you on the flip side.